What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Elevate Your Grind, brought to you by the Cannabis Lab. I am your host, Todd Rosales, and we have a very special episode for you today. It's funny. I think most of my favorite guests I find off LinkedIn, at least the ones that I don't know or I'm connected to. It's just their content. I see it once, I see it twice. I like a post, it starts invading my feed, and next thing you know, I'm like, okay, I really want to have a conversation with this person. Um, my guest today has been in the social media world for 11 years, many of those years being in the cannabis realm. I'm shocked I have not crossed paths with her in the past. I don't even know if I pronunciated that right. We have a couple mutual friends in common, but I'm really excited to have the conversation with her. She is very polarizing on LinkedIn. The one thing I just told her is that I love the way that she makes her points because they come from an educated and experienced standpoint. She's not just bitching. So because of that, I appreciate and respect the things that she says, whether I agree or disagree with her. So please welcome Elizabeth Udell. Elizabeth, thank you for joining me.
Hi, happy to be here. So exciting.
Yeah, it's most people are excited to be on a podcast that's watched by my parents and like three of their friends.
You'll have a few more when I post about it, so don't worry.
I think that's really the main reason for having you on the show is I can't afford your consultation fees, and I figured I can just pick your brain for free as long as I recorded it and posted it on the internet. So, um,
Yeah.
but you've been doing this quite some time. You've worked for some major cannabis brands. The thing that I love about you is you working on your own allows you to be free, which is probably,
hmm
and when I say free, free with your opinions, free with your time, free with the things that you want to do. And that's what I envy about you the most, right? And that's I think really why I respect your opinion so much on LinkedIn is you're you could be, but to me it seems like you're not watching what you say solely for the fact that you're worried about somebody else's opinion or that coming back negatively on you or impacting your bottom dollar, if you will. Is that the case? And do you really feel that freedom being on your own?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was talking to my friend a few days ago because she has a brand out here and she has distributors and everything. And she told me that she does get yelled at, for speaking her mind. And not once has anyone ever yelled at me in like the last year at least. When I was at Cookies, it was very toxic, and my team would get mad at me for things that I would post that were very positive for the marketing team. And it's definitely to your point. Like, I am on my own. I've had enough personal experience with, the people that I talk out against. And it's always met with positivity because I'm not going after people who are actually like beloved. A lot of people have had issues with some of the companies that I speak out against. So yeah, I am definitely free, drama free. It's real. It's actually really refreshing. And to your point, the more I talk, the more work I get. It's great.
But I think, it's not just complaining or bitching for the sense of bitching. I think there are a lot of people out there that complain because they're not doing as well as the person that they're complaining against. And they're just trying to reach for anything that they can complain against, or they'll make up things, or they'll just say generic stuff. Like you're citing, I don't want to say citing like an encyclopedia, but you're citing articles, you're showing things that they've done, and you're giving real world experiences, which is why I think it's respectful. And I think there are a lot of people who look at what you say and like she's fucking right, I knew it, right? And the fact that you're educated and you don't, I think there are certain people, like I'll say this, and maybe I'll get hate for this, right? Saturday Night Live has always made fun of politicians, always.
Yeah.
I think with Donald Trump at one point they were just being mean, and whatever your opinion is on Trump or anything else, like at one point to me it just got tired, and it wasn't because I'm a Trump fan or defending the guy or anything else, but I'm like, it's not funny. Like I watch your show to be funny. And if you want to make fun of him in a funny way, where anytime they had a great joke about him, I laughed my fucking ass off. But like at some point they just got mean because they felt that they could get away with it. So like that's the type of boundary that I kind of respect. Like make fun of whoever you want if you can make it clever or classy or whatever it is, or if you have real reason to say something about that person. But when you're just being mean for the sake of being mean, I don't appreciate that.
Yeah, you have to always have value, especially on LinkedIn. Even, with things as simple as bragging, right? Like when I talk about my successes, I always try and add like a pro tip or advice to help people. Because if you're not doing well or if you're looking for a job or something on LinkedIn, it's a very toxic place because
It
people
is.
do love to talk about their successes. So I always really want to just like toe the line and make sure that I'm not, just like bragging all the time, but I am trying to help people too. If I post about, a video that got millions of views, I want to couple it with this is how I did it, or this is how you could do it. Because yeah, like at the end of the day, you want to have value, and I think that's why I've gotten a lot of like really engaged followers on LinkedIn, because they know that I'm speaking my mind, but I'm also, as you say, like I'm not being mean with it. I'm just really just taking my experience and trying to talk for the people that really can't, especially like East Coast markets, when they have like they don't really have a choice. But to, go to this really toxic brand, or, someone like once told me they spoke out and they were receiving death threats. And I'm just like, okay, well, I need to speak about that because they have like they can't touch me. And I'm privileged with that. Um, Especially kind of just being in California, like all the really bad East Coast MSOs. So I really always just try and like think about, like how can I help people in this industry with my words?
No, and that's great. To be able to have a platform to speak up for people from both a positive and negative standpoint. I wanted to transition into your career, but you had said something I want to touch on before we get off this topic. LinkedIn being toxic. I have this theory right now, and I truly believe it. Like I think LinkedIn is the worst and most toxic of all the social media platforms because nobody is truly themselves on there. They're all creating an image, and it's the Instagram image even more embraced because you actually are trying to earn revenue and make business there. And it's not just like when you go through Instagram, like I have the influencers and the major accounts I follow, and then there are my friends. And like my friends are posting normal shit, pictures of fucking
Mhm.
bagels with locks and stuff like that, or a
Yeah.
good brunch they went to. And then the people that are trying to make money off of you because that's their job. On LinkedIn, it's everybody. And then on the other side of that, if you're not successful, your failures are there, right? Like your work history is there. If you had a job for 3 or 4 months, it's pretty there. Like, yeah, you can hide it eventually and you can kind of fudge your LinkedIn, but you get a job, a company expects you to announce it. Well, what if you just took that job because you need to pay the bills? You're not proud of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I hate saying that, but that's the reality of life. So I'd love to get your opinion because I actually think that LinkedIn is probably one of the worst places for people's mental health if they're not just using it for a tool because it can be depressing, especially if you're not doing well.
Yeah. It's like it's very so yeah, definitely to your point, it's work successes over like life successes, right? On Instagram, you follow people who are constantly going on vacation, you get that kind of like FOMO, like, wow, like I wish I can go to Italy every summer and all that stuff. But with LinkedIn, um, you see people that are like, I either, I want their position, I want to work at their company. I want to be doing what they're doing for work. I want to be as successful. So, it's definitely a terrible place for your mental health if you aren't where you want to be career wise. If you're looking for a job, LinkedIn, like you'll look at the job post and it's like 2,000 people applied in the last day. Like that really, really messes with you. Um, so to your point, it's really inauthentic. Like I don't see people don't even curse on LinkedIn because I don't even think like, you can. So
Yeah.
like, I curse a lot in my life and
Same.
my authentic self is Instagram. But for LinkedIn, I really do try and keep a semi level of professionalism to pretty much just like appease LinkedIn. Like I don't know the full rules. I've never had a post taken down on LinkedIn, but I am very open with like cannabis verbiage that you can't be anywhere else
No.
except for Twitter, or X. um yeah, but yeah, no, I really just think that LinkedIn is for people who are really in just like a really good mindset, where they are work wise and where they want to be. Because it's really disheartening for sure, especially in this workforce these days.
I hate it. I'll be the first one to
Yeah.
say I hate it. And I mean, that's part of
Yeah.
the it's part of the reason why I do the show is because I'm not good with the written word. I feel better at the spoken word. So like, even when
Hmm.
I post the episodes of the podcast on there, it's pretty much like, hey, check out our latest episode. And like, you're gonna watch or you don't. You like the way I talk or you don't. And I feel like I get to be me on this show, but I went through a hard year last year and we don't need to get into that, but I felt that last summer I had one of my biggest failures of my life. And like,
Hmm.
I got to a point where I was working for a company that I was known for. And like, that was kind of it felt like part of my identity. And when I lost it, like going on LinkedIn was hard or changing, even just taking the job away and like saying that it ended, like,
Yeah.
like that was tougher than anything that I had gone through. And it wasn't a fun experience. And then I did have to take a job just to pay the bills. And like, I didn't even want to put it on my LinkedIn. I didn't share the company announcement. I hid it. I just kind of added it to my LinkedIn and just,
Hmm.
I know the position that I'm in, and I know there are people in worse positions to me. I can't imagine what they're going through. Um, but
Yeah.
there is some positive there, but it's interesting. It's like we've all been forced to be influencers to a point because of it. When I would say 90% of us don't barely post anything on any other social media. Like if you follow my personal social media account, you will see me repost my wife's reels of our kids. You will see mm, posts on both my kids' birthdays, her birthday, Mother's Day, maybe Valentine's Day, and that's pretty much
Hmm.
it. That's what you're getting from me.
Yeah, my boyfriend, I don't think he's posted in years, which is so
No,
funny because I just post everything.
yeah. Well, I told her because she's like, "Why don't you post anything with the kids?" I'm like, "Why don't you just tag me so I can repost it?" Because I'm not gonna do it.
Yep. I don't think he's, I've been dating for 5 years. I don't think he's posted me on the feed once. And like, it doesn't bother me because I just know that's the kind of person he is. But I do know it's like social media has ruined a lot of like relationships my friends have been in.
Yeah, no. Well, it's funny if you actually look at my anniversary is in January, and my wife's birthday is in December, and I didn't even realize I used literally the same
Awesome.
pictures to to post about both of them with her. She's like, you use
Nice.
that. She's like, I don't care, but you already use those pictures. I'm like, they're good pictures. You look great. Um,
Yeah. I get
so
it. And
so
I'm
let's
also
talk.
a December birthday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm so like her. I imagine. Do you like it or do you not like it? Because people try to combine it into Christmas and Hanukkah for you.
I mean, for me, it's always so it's December 8th. So it's
Okay.
either always during finals week. So in
Mhm.
college, everyone was either studying or they already left for winter break. And like for the last 10 years, it's always during art basel. So all of a sudden, everyone leaves LA, my birthday weekend. So they all go to Art Basel. And
Oh,
yeah, so you love it because like you love the season, but it's always been a very weird time because people have other obligations more than else other times of the year.
she's the same way. She's like, I used to she's like every year my parents would just use it as an excuse to get me one present. I'm like, yeah, that sucks.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. I became too old for Hanukkah, 8 presents a day when I was like 12. And then it just became like, all right, you just get one big one. And I'm just like, okay, well,
So
yay.
let's talk about you. How did you get into the world of social media? What pulled you in here? What attracted you to it? I know you grew up in Florida. You went to the Gainesville Penitentiary for 4 years. Sorry, I'm a Florida State alum. So but
FS who?
yeah. Yeah, you guys are breeding ground for
5 years.
criminals.
No, hey, look, Tally's awesome.
How,
I mean, look, Florida, UF is not fun. Okay. We're only fun fall. Come spring, everyone's studying, everyone's working. So I would drive up to Tally all the time and party, like
yeah.
Coliseum, all that stuff. Like Tally was awesome. I love Tally.
That was the one thing that was always funny to me. Like, and I'm not even saying this because I went to Florida State and like it's a rivalry thing, but we'd have friends from UF come up and they're like, yeah, our school's not like this. You guys there's something wrong with
Yeah.
all of you, actually. So
Yeah, we only got like the party school cred because of football season. But
yeah.
come spring, it's library time. Like everyone's boring and just work like studying.
I mean, still a great school, but and so if I recall correctly, reading about you that you actually started, did you start an EDM blog in college or was that after college?
Yeah, so my degree is in public relations. Don't
Now,
use it.
was that something like was that like so like I'm one of those kids I went through college like I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do even like the day I graduated like I'm lucky I found a
Yeah.
job in like management training that is like okay this seems okay. Did you kind of know what you wanted to do or like how did you get into PR from
Oh
a
my
major
gosh.
standpoint?
Yeah, I changed my major three times. I came in, I've always loved to read and write. I did the debate team all through high school. So I came in as an English major and then I switched to mass comm.
Now your
And then I
posts make
switched.
much more sense. Debate club, got it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm not.
I
I'm not.
loved.
I told you I was going to take a contrarian view in this episode. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
going to anymore. I feel inadequate for
Yeah.
it.
I loved the debate team. That was so much fun. Um, but no, I was going to go to law school. And the biggest mistake I ever made was summary for, so I did 5 years at UF. So summary for my fifth year of college, I moved to LA for an internship and I took the LSAT here. And I'm just like, no, I don't have 3 more years of law school to give. I am graduating and I'm getting a job. Like it was done. LA was just so eye-opening to me. And that's kind of so I always I always loved social media, right? Like MySpace kid, like I always really just loved being chronically online. So with my so when I switched to PR, we were learning social media because in 2011, 2012, 2013, PR, social media was a PR tool. And then when I graduated in 2014, they introduced advertising. So suddenly it's a marketing tool. So I came out to LA with a social media internship with Guest of a Guest, which is like an event coverage company. I was having the time of my life. I was really into the rave scene. I loved electronic music. So when I got back to UF, I had a breakdown and I'm like, how do I keep these good vibes going? I'm stuck in the swamp. This is my fifth year, so all my friends graduated. So I realized I wanted to do PR for one of the electronic music blogs. There was Dancing Astronaut, there was EDM Tunes, and Dancing Astronaut was like really big to me. So I'm like, all right, let me try, like, let me go for EDM Tunes. And I reached out, I asked to do the PR. And like, we're not looking for PR, but we always need writers. And I just ran with it. In 2013, 2014, there were maybe like 8 major cities that DJs would just, hit up. Tally, Gainesville, Orlando,
Mhm.
Miami. And I just made that press pass my bitch. Honestly, I just like made so many connections that when I graduated, I walked the stage with a job waiting for me in LA at Live Nation and Insomniac events.
That is incredible. Did you know the Jeter guys
Yeah.
prior when they did Life in Color?
I do know David Solano. Yep.
Okay.
And before Life in Color, it was Dayglow.
Yep. Well, I don't think many people know
Hate
that.
party.
Well, it was a SIGEP fraternity party that they essentially
I was sick up
borrowed.
sweetheart.
Were you? I was
Uh-huh.
I was an ATO for 2 years until I realized I hated fraternity life. Um,
AT blow.
in Florida State, it was more than ever. Um,
Yeah, I was a Kappa Delta.
okay, very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So
KD.
I grew up with Lucas and Patrick. They moved here in seventh grade and met them. Middle school, high school, they went to Florida State, and that's where they started Dayglow. So I
Hmm.
figured with your background, you might know those guys, and then going into the same industry again. So at what point do you transition to cannabis? I mean, I'm assuming let's do that on two fronts, right? Has cannabis always been a part of your life? Like, at what age did you discover in it? At what age your relationship like? Because I can tell you, I'm a late bloomer. I I guess call me a dare kid or whatever it is. I tried it for the first time at 16, didn't again till sophomore year of college. And even throughout college,
Hmm.
at most it was like once a month. Maybe the most frequent I ever did was once a week. It wasn't until that I graduated, got a real job in sales, and I'd be like stressed at night and couldn't sleep. And I noticed the nights that I smoked, I slept. So that's like I was
Yeah.
probably 22 or 23 when I really started consuming every day. I'd love to hear when cannabis became part of your, not fuck it, weed, when weed became part of your life. That's what we call it.
Yeah, I was 15. I started smoking at 15, the end of sophomore year of high school, and it just consumed my life. I was smoking all the time. I wasn't buying, I didn't have a piece. That came later in college. But I was such a fan. I loved it. I loved the way it made me feel. It was really great. We were pretty tame in South Florida, so it was pretty much just like weed, alcohol, and shrooms at the parties.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so weed, that was like, yeah, that was a really, really big part of my life. It only escalated through college. And when I came out here to LA, I was a patient. So I got a medical card immediately. I'm buying all the time. And while I'm working in music, I'm also seeing like what's going on in the medical industry here. And I really wanted to do some level of marketing. Like I love weed so much. And I would literally just like go to dispensaries and be like, hey, like I'll do your Instagram for like 100 a week. And no one was really into it because everything, is pre-ICO, the money could be gone tomorrow, you could be raided.
Hmm.
They didn't want that. So I started working with like smaller brands. I connected with an agency on the East Coast called Brand Hire. So I was just like doing that. I started working with my friends who were trapping slash made a distro. And I was really just giving it my all. We were doing photo shoots in 2016, like really just doing whatever I could. And then in 2018, as soon as we flipped, I joined MedMen. And that's like because they were making billboards and they had money, and that's all I wanted. Like all I wanted to do was traditional marketing in cannabis. But I waited. I mean, 2014 to 2018, that's 4 years, like slow burn. Loved every second of it. The medical days they were really something. But
Yeah.
yeah, cannabis has always been a part of my life.
I mean, back then, I don't think any of us knew what MedMen was going to become or what they represented. But like you said at the time,
No.
and I'm curious to know because so I did a stint at Spring Big, right? And my job on
Oh
paper at
yeah.
Spring Big was to sell text message marketing. But the issue that we had
Mhm.
is many of the marketers that I was working with didn't know how to market weed. They didn't know their
Yeah.
brand. They didn't know how to speak to their consumers. So we would have people that would come on. They would send some pictures of nugs with their logos on it. It'd be like, your platform sucks. It doesn't work. I'm like, no, your marketing sucks. Our
Yeah.
platform works. Um, you know, and because I know we'd have people that actually put like lifestyle images or actually knew how to talk to their audience, and we'd see success with them. So all of a sudden you're coming from the music world into the world of cannabis, especially in a day where there really weren't brands. Like there were established brands from like a trap standpoint, but they weren't as put together as they are today. So how do you take an approach
Mhm.
to promoting the weed industry? Because I think that's one of the things that I think you did well at MedMen was talking to an audience that is not used to publicly speaking about weed and putting it on the radio waves or putting it on a billboard. And
Yeah.
that, you know, say what you want about MedMen, that was the first of its kind. And that I think really opened up the
Yes.
conversation about cannabis in the country. It's unfortunate what happened after that.
Hmm. Yeah, no. We really started from the get-go. I started in March 2018. So the moment Forget Stoner, that campaign launched, that was it, like we were going after the Canna Curious. We're going after people who've never like tried it before. We did a campaign in October, like mask off, like let's get a bunch of normal people who consume where you wouldn't think to consume. Um, so it was really just from the get-go, we were doing incredibly expensive photo shoots every month for our social media, but we were pioneering editorial style. And now we know that it doesn't really work on Instagram, but you have all these new emerging markets doing editorial style. And like, to your point, we were doing podcast ads, like we were doing so we did so much in a year and a half that, that's why they are where they are. But so much was happening that we just really wanted to try it all and like test the boundaries and see like what cannabis can be a part of. We worked with Spike Jones for that I can't say TV spot, but like YouTube spot.
Yeah.
Um, just to really, yeah, like we were everywhere and it was incredible at the time to be part of that company, to constantly be winning. And it is such a shame what happened because that was like truly like one of the best jobs in my entire life. I would go into the office like an hour early. Like I would just wake up at like 7 a.m. Like I got nothing to
Yeah.
do. Let's go. Like I loved it so much. It was everything I could have wanted. I got the account verified. That was pretty much like one of maybe 10 cannabis accounts verified at the time. So being able to really just pioneer this, um, it was wonderful. And now, we're seeing it all the time now. A lot of dispensaries have a lot of the same aesthetic. When new states come on board, they all are trying to have like the same kind of style. But really just being there at the beginning. Because even though California wasn't the first to go adult use, there was Oregon and Colorado. Um, California advertising, we took what beauty brands were doing, like it's the same kind of deal with New York, but those are the people who live in California, who live in LA, and they just really just took this industry and changed everything,
Yeah.
everything it could be.
No, I remember, I was still a big Howard Stern fan at the time and remember hearing the MedMen
Yeah.
commercial on Howard Stern. That was the first time. And I'm like, oh my
Hmm.
God, there's a commercial for weed
Yeah.
on. Now, granted, it was on Sirius, but like, you know, bef-
Yes.
at the time, I would like to say, and you're probably more into this than I am because I'm a big podcast fan. Um,
Hmm.
the moment that Elon Musk took a hit of a joint on Rogan, I think
Yes.
was a turning point for podcasts in general because that's when Rogan blew up. And then Rogan, I think, brought all the other comedy podcasts and then podcasting in general, I think became huge. Now, if you don't have a podcast, you're in the fucking minority, right?
Yeah.
So, but at the time, Howard Stern on Sirius was probably one of the most listened to show in cars, anything off of TV. So to hear that was absolutely incredible. How did you
Yeah.
feel when South Park made fun of you guys? That must have been awesome.
That is probably one of the biggest career highlights of my entire life. South Park is my favorite show. And to just know that they had our, like, okay, so I did not create the new normal, but I was in charge of getting it online and on social. So if I didn't do that, then Trey and Matt never would have seen it. But the fact that they had it, because I know, I'm like, right, like the attention to detail, they did it frame for frame. So like that was on loop in their office. Like that is an honor. Like no one at MedMen, unfortunately, when that happened, it was kind of like the beginning of the end internally. A lot of, layoffs were starting to happen, but no one was really upset. Everyone was just like, oh, like this is an honor. It's still definitely like a career highlight to me. Not only did they spoof the entire thing, but they, made a whole plot for Randy for everything. It was incredible.
It
Absolutely incredible.
it's cool because if you think about the way that South Park does their show, they do it week to week, right? So like, you got
Yep.
Trey and Matt probably sitting around. The commercial comes on the first time, and they're like, start riffing on it, and then that's
Yeah.
exactly how it happened. They might have even been smoking at the time. Like, have
Yeah.
you have you had the opportunity to meet them by any chance?
I have. I actually have. They took over the Paley Museum in 2016 or 2017. I can't remember. And they did a Q&A that I went alone to. I'm like, I'm not going with anyone. I'm just going by myself. And I sat there. And do you know what? Actually, you know what's so funny? So I did meet them after they signed my ticket. They were asking for questions, and my question, I didn't have like the balls to ask it, but my question was going to be, in the episode Butter's Bottom Bitch, you make fun of ATO. Why? Like that was actually going to be my question.
That's funny. You know what's weird? Like,
Yeah.
I'll randomly be watching TV shows, like comedy TV shows, and they'll make jokes about either ATO or Florida State. And I'm just like, am I only noticing it because like that's part of my background, or is there
Yeah.
an inside joke in Hollywood about Florida State that I just don't know about?
I know, especially in ATO. I'm like, you could have made a fake fraternity. You could have chosen anyone. Like, why did you choose ATO?
They got a beef with somebody back in the day from growing up. So
Yeah.
again, regardless of what Mad Men turned into, like the beginnings of Mad Men were really to me were kind of open up the cannabis conversation. Like if you look, the store that they
Yeah.
had on Abbot Kinney, like that, to me was a great
Oh, yeah.
place. If I wanted to show somebody what the legal cannabis industry is, even though it was a MedMen, that is a store that I thought really
Mhm.
kind of showed it off. And the ads that you guys were doing, obviously, leadership did what they did. So you were doing great work there. What led you to the next? Was cookies the direct next opportunity, or did you have other stops along the way?
I had other stops along the way. Um, August around like June to August 2019 is when things, started to go south with funding. So they let go of my CMO and a few other leaderships. They brought in someone due to nepotism, and I'm just like, okay, well, you come from fashion, you're immediately going after social because it's like the only thing you know. And I had to quit because I'm like, you suddenly like I can't work for this woman. Um, so I quit. And then a few months later, I got a job at West Coast Cure, which was amazing. But I was commuting about an hour and 15 minutes down to Irvine because they're on the Weed Maps campus. So, excuse me. So I was there
Hour and
from
15 minutes on a
November.
good day, probably.
Yeah, I know. And I would take the train sometimes. Um, so I was at West Coast Cure, which was really great because they did a lot with music. They would always sponsor Rolling Loud. So, I was back to that. And they're an OG brand that I always loved. But then the pandemic started in March 2020, and I was offered a role at Advanced Nutrients with Big Mike. And I was in the office for literally a week, and then we're all remote. And it was just a very interesting experience because I've always known, Big Mike and the nutrient side, but there were also a lot of different brands under the umbrella. Um, but I just like quickly learned that 2018 to 2020 was the last good times with cannabis. Like money was flowing, everyone's hiring, everyone's having a great time. And then they're all corrupt. So going in, high turnover, I went through about seven CMOs in like 5 years. So I started to really just like realize this pattern that, you come in so excited to a role, but you're met with a hardened team who, who maybe just like went through a bunch of layoffs or, they're not paid enough. So you kind of just lose that excitement. So after Advanced Nutrients, I was doing some consulting for a little bit um, with like houseplants. So, Seth's company was getting
Mm-hmm.
around, so I was helping out with houseplants. And then Clubhouse happened. So in November 2020, I got on Clubhouse, and Clubhouse was incredible. I have just so many friends I've made through Clubhouse, and I was able to get my role at CannaCraft. So, CannaCraft is Absolute Extracts, Farmer and the Felon, Care by Design, brands I know and love. And that was the thing, right? Like, since I was at MedMen and we were operating in 7 different states, like, I've marketed every brand because we were a dispensary, we were promoting everyone. So I know all the brands so well. I've already marketed them before. So going into CannaCraft, it was just really awesome. And the team was amazing. But then they had to cut salaries. So I went to go to Cookies. And I was at Cookies until about May of 2022, and it was my last my last full-time in-house cannabis role because, like I said, they're all the same, and all my friends who've had the same pattern, jumping to all the big ones, like literally all the same internally. So ever since then, I've just been on my own, working with everyone and having the time of my life.
Yeah, I mean, you see, like, especially the initial crop of cannabis companies that have raised a shit ton of money, like they're getting sued. There's something wrong with them. We see the things that are going on with cookies now, the self dealings and all that. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
I actually, this is the second podcast I'm recording today, and with somebody earlier, it was more on the capital side, and we talked about, like, I feel like the fundamentals of investing went out the window because people were blindsided by the potential upside that they were being sold, right? And nobody knew who to trust or the management teams that would actually, at the end of the day, maybe people in the culture will hate this word, but people would actually be a good fiduciary, because I hate saying it, that is an important part of the business too. Like, we need the people from the culture, we need
Yeah.
that side of it, but there also needs to be an adult in the room that says, like, no, you're not spending $1.5 million on this party that's only going to sell us $400,000 in cannabis. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
And they're usually the first to get cut.
yeah. So, I can definitely see. Now, the interesting thing about your path is you've had all these great roles with these great companies. Talking back about your life, was entrepreneurship ever something that you thought would be on your radar? Like, you essentially are a business right now, whether it's you or whether you work with other people, but people are coming to you. You're independent. You can say what you want, you can work with who you want. You have the number one greatest thing in life, the ability to say no to something you don't want to do, and that's something that not a lot
Yes.
of people have. At what point, and you kind of said it, but at what point do you take a step back and say, I'm not happy working with these big brands. It's not a good experience going in bright eyed and bushy tail and getting the happiness slapped out of me. Like,
Yes.
where do you leave the security of a full-time job and a paycheck and health insurance to say, I think I can do this on my own and be happier and be more successful?
So it was definitely, I would say definitely the beginning of 2021. I think the pandemic really changed everything simply for remote work. So, you could have like the full-time role, but you could start these side hustles because, you're not in an office. You have the time to work on multiple things at once. So I always say like I'm not and it's changed now, but I was never dreaming of being an entrepreneur. I always thought, I would like climb the corporate ladder. Um, and it was just so apparent, pretty much also like the reality of money, right? Because, with social media, like, let's be transparent here, you can maybe cap at 200,000, maybe. And if you're on your own, you can charge them and them and them and them and them, write off a bunch of stuff and just have like a better life because marketers, especially social media, are incredibly undervalued. And I just realized that, I had the salary role the last 2 years, but I had these little side hustles, these little life rafts. And then with cookies, I was just like, I'm so scared to leave the life raft, the salary role, but let's just do it. Like let's just try it. And it's just so subconscious, but everything I was afraid of just never happened. I've constantly have work. I've never once looked for work. It's always been referral because I just don't shut up. Like I'm always in people's spaces about my social media that it just literally becomes like, hey, we're looking for social. Hey, we're looking for social. So like I'm top of mind. Um, and I know that it's very few and far between, especially last year with the tech layoffs, because a lot of people are now looking for like the next role in house. You got fired from Meta. So you're like, oh, yeah, like that Hulu job looks great. And like that's like, that doesn't even sound appealing anymore. Like
No.
going after like these big jobs, like head of social for Aloe. Maybe a few years ago I would have liked that, but now I just know too much of the experience, for me to have a good time that, yeah, it just really became, just so exciting to be on my own. I have clients like Prince Street Pizza that I've been with for almost 2 years. So, you kind of have like those kind of anchors that, um, make it all fun because like you have to understand, like with cannabis marketing, we're all doing the same thing. Every client I bring on, I'm like, I can repurpose a lot of this content, how to roll a joint, like all the educational bits. It gets very boring almost like almost 9 years of straight cannabis marketing work. I'm still doing shoots that I was doing in 2015. So I love that I'm in cannabis, but I've also been able to creatively branch out like back into entertainment. I'm working with a few DJs this weekend at a festival. I have the food. So I think, being independent has also just made me be comfortable again to branch out into all these other industries, just so I have it just like a better time. I love doing what I do, but you have to work really hard to like social media because it's been a lot of the same stuff for almost a decade now.
It seems to me like you're very much have the soul of an artist who happens to be good at business too. Because I see this, and again, just from observation, I see this in comedy now, where a lot of comedians are more direct to put their stuff directly on social media or YouTube because they don't want a bunch of people telling them what they think is funny, and they want their art on it
Yeah.
out there unadulterated, right? It seems to me like now, like, yeah, maybe being social media manager for this company might be cool, but they're going to tell me what I can and can't do. And candidly, I know what fucking works. They don't, which is why they're hiring me. That's,
Yeah.
and maybe you might see this too, but I can't tell you. So my background is more sales than marketing, right? I've dabbled in marketing, but I'm much more of a sales guy and strategy there. And I can't tell you how many companies I've interviewed for, and they ask me, what are you going to do when you come in here? How would you do this? And I tell them, they're like, this is fucking great. It's the greatest thing we ever heard. We can't wait for you to work here. Then day one, all right, I'm going to implement what I said. Nah, you see, this is how we do things here. You need to do it this way. I'm like, what about the interview though? Like, I can only imagine what that's like
Hmm.
when you're a creative like yourself.
Yeah, I have a really hard time being stifled. Like Prince Street, for instance, like they don't care what I post and for good reason. Like I do so well being able to be unhinged, having so much fun with the internet. Um, Having multiple levels of approval would just drive me absolutely insane. But I thankfully I'm at a place where my work just speaks for itself. As soon as the pandemic hit and everyone got on TikTok, I'm like, all right, I need to understand how to use this because this is going to be a marketing tool. And if I can get TikTok down, I am set. And that's really like what it's become. But yeah, I mean, I follow a lot of social media managers on LinkedIn, and they're always complaining. It's like when your April calendar got approved in August, like I can't work like that anymore. I really just have to, like obviously I'll, have a schedule, a calendar, like there's open communication, but I've really proven that like I know what I'm talking about, I know what I'm doing. And that is more than enough because yeah, I cannot have my creativity be stifled like that, especially when, you know social media and you're up against people who just don't.
I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like in today's world, and going back to kind of how South Park operates, right? The news cycle is so short that you really can't do that. Like if you take 2 weeks or 3 weeks to approve a post, like it could be irrelevant at that point, like completely irrelevant. So, to me, it
Yeah.
almost, I think having someone in your role outside that is kind of not afraid to push back because they don't have like, okay, I'm going to lose a client. I'll get another client. Like it's not every single dollar I make because you're going to fire me. Right. So, I think that they can get better results out of someone like you because you're going to do what works. It's not just
Yeah.
pandering to something or saying, oh, this might cause controversy. It's like, yeah, and we're going to get a shit ton of comments and likes and everyone's going to see it. Like, so
Yeah.
that's interesting. You talked about Clubhouse prior. I will tell you when Clubhouse came out, I probably cheered for it to fail more than anybody else in the world, mainly because I didn't want to
Yeah.
have another platform to commit to. So I'm sorry
Yeah.
if I was one of the people who helped kill it because I did make friends on there too, and I got to connect with a lot of people during the pandemic. But I was just like, no, no, I don't want another one of these. It needs to go away. And I have yet to join TikTok, which is probably why only my mom and a few of her friends watch this show. So, TikTok
Oh, TikTok's where it's at for podcasts for
is
sure.
TikTok to me saying the comedy and podcasting definitely TikTok is like, is that are people using TikTok also as a medium to drive to the other platforms as well too?
Absolutely. TikTok's the biggest driver out there. YouTube probably close second, but like TikTok. TikTok is where it's at. And it's not, and it's not Gen Z. Like what I've actually learned is a lot of the content creators are 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, because we love to post and talk about ourselves, and Gen Z doesn't. They'll be on there, but they're scrolling and they're not posting. I volunteer at the UCLA Kappa Delta House, and I'm begging these girls to do TikToks. And I'm like, I can't be the only one with a large following on TikTok. Like, y'all have it, right? And then none of them do because they're just observers. They don't feel comfortable posting. So, like, it was definitely a Gen Z app at first, but now it is completely all ages. And the older you are, the more interesting you are. Everyone, it's all like I don't listen to podcasts that much, but I definitely watch a lot of podcast clips on TikTok that are fed to me. It's incredible. It's awesome. It's so funny. TikTok's my favorite for sure. It's just such an organic driver. Like Instagram's dead in the water because everything is just repurposed from TikTok to Instagram. So,
Yeah.
all trends are made on TikTok and then just cross promoted everywhere. So yeah, TikTok all the way.
I'm gonna have to start checking that out. I've been because
You
I'm an
do.
yeah, I'm just old and stubborn. Like I
You're
hate
not you're not old.
I know.
Trust me, you're the perfect demo for TikTok.
I hate social media so much. I'm the type of
I
guy like in my
know.
neighborhood. I nobody in my neighborhood know. I wave to all my neighbors. That's it. I don't talk to them. I don't stop. I don't want
Yeah,
nobody to know
like
anything
my
about
dad.
me. I'm away. I'll howdy hi. Nobody like if you ask anyone in my neighborhood, what's Todd like? Seems nice. Never really spoke to him. I guarantee you that would be the same thing across the board. So but
Yeah,
then again, I do this show and I
I get
bear
it.
all my truths on here and I have interesting conversations. So maybe I'm a just walking contradiction right now. But
Yeah, you would really benefit.
I'm gonna have to check it
I
out.
think
So
so.
first of all, the one specific thing I want to get into with you is what is with the no ranch at Prince Street Pizza? Because to me, Gumby's Pizza in
Mm.
Tallahassee pioneered me with ranch on pizza, and it's delicious. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Oh, I miss Gumby's. Remember the Godzilla?
Yeah, I remember the Pokey Sticks
That
too.
stuff was, yep. We love the Poke Sticks. We had Gumby's in Gainesville too.
Yeah,
We
but
had
we had the
good
real
pizza.
Gumby's.
Yeah, it was still good though.
I know. No, Gumby's was
Everything, it's actually really a shame though. Everything's gone in Gainesville. They got rid of the swamp. They actually got rid of everything. It's a huge travesty.
Tallahassee. Everything's been
But no ranch
redone to
on
like modern shit.
really like Painted Lady and all that. It's still there.
No, Pots and Painted are still there, but like,
Okay, okay.
yeah,
Institution.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so no ranch on pizza. That I honestly I blew that up, okay? Because we're from New York, and we're real Italian, and like, our pizza's so good you don't need it. And there's a sign at the store being like no ranch, no blue cheese, no ketchup, no mayonnaise. And I just blew it up on TikTok and Instagram, and now it's just like a part of our thing, like no ranch. And the internet is just always so divided. They love to argue. Like that's the thing, like you need to find an angle with social media, and ours is the oily pizza and the no ranch. And it's just so much fun just to mess with people and just make them so angry. And then that's how they talk. So yeah, we've really just like embraced the no ranch. I personally do not like ranch, especially on pizza. So I feel very at home with Prince Street. But it's also become a thing in LA. We have the LA Pizza Wars. Like you'll have Prime Pizza literally like putting ranch on the pizza and be like, what up, Prince Street? Like it's actually really awesome that we've been able to kind of like have fun with all this.
That's
So
really
that's
cool.
where the no ranch is.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason you do so well. Like you seem to really have fun doing the things that you're doing, and maybe that it's good that you got out of the cannabis industry too, because like it is kind of not fun right now, especially with everything going on, especially in California with it's a war out there. I'm curious to know what keeps
Yep.
you so like you're still a cannabis industry influencer. Like whether you work in the industry or not, you're still very connected to the industry. So what keeps you,
Yeah.
wanting to keep your finger on the pulse in the industry, even though your income primarily probably comes from outside of it?
So I think what's great to be in a position is I've had a lot of cannabis clients within the year, projects I could hop in on. And I really like emerging markets. I have a legal brand in New York, which is just like I love to learn. At the end of the day, I find legal New York very fascinating. They have about maybe like 10 stores in the entire state. So learning, going in, because like I'll talk to people in New York and they'll just be like, we need you, but in New York, and that just simply doesn't exist yet. The market was vertical medical to horizontal adult use. So like there are no marketers as seasoned as California and other adult use states. So um, I I love to, keep it relevant. I think that so many companies need help. That was also another reason why I was leaving cookies. I'm just like, we're operating in over 15 states, and there's just like, we're all doing the same thing, and people just need that guidance. So being able to kind of be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So yeah, because I mean, if I was 100% right now, I'd probably be very, very, very miserable, especially on the marketing side. So definitely having the ability to pick and choose who I want to work with. I have about 4 cannabis clients right now. And it's been really great to, maintain that relevancy and still, try and, keep learning, see what's interesting. I have a mushroom client, of course, because that's, what's on everyone's mind
Yeah.
right now, and it'll forever be less police than cannabis. Cannabis is reefer madness. It always will be. Mushrooms, ketamine, that is embraced
Yeah.
lovingly. But it's just really like I can't, since cannabis is such a huge part of my life still, I can't ever say goodbye to it. I would just be throwing away so many years of experience. So even if I only have like one cannabis client, I still want to I want to stay in the industry for sure. But I have to just do it on my terms because I have PTSD. Like like every single brand in California has gone through at least one major layoff, every single one, because we were all making money, everyone was doing great. So it's really tough for people to stay with it. And I know I just have to, because the industry isn't going anywhere, and it's a love hate, right? Masochism.
It is. What are your views on the future of the industry right now? Because, it, the industry to me, it's turning into just any other industry as far as like the type of players in it. And I know a lot of us hate on the MSOs,
Yeah.
rightfully so, maybe, maybe not. And at the end of the day, though,
Mhm.
like my issue with it is the issues that the MSOs have are issues that most major companies have in literally almost every industry across the world, right? Corporations are corrupt, they
Mhm.
don't do the right thing, they try to sweep things under the rug.
Mhm.
We see it probably more rampant in any other industry. Is it because of the nature and the history of the cannabis space that we expect it to be different and more inclusive? Like, when did this industry become what should be, or when do people why do people feel that this industry should be the poster child for other industries instead of just mimicking them? Like, obviously, as a human being, we all want to do better every time that we iterate something again, but what I don't see is why people expect this industry to be different, especially when a lot of the people that are coming into this industry, the ones that are in the bigger companies, are coming from fucking Wall Street and the industries that
Mhm.
created these kind of companies. So, that's the one thing. Like, would I love it to be pure and welcoming and everything else? Absolutely. But I don't know if there's anything else on the planet that is.
Yeah, I think so. I think so basically when we flipped in California and we were hiring, executives from Netflix and Visa and Disney and Adidas, and we were hiring them to work in this industry without fully realizing that um this industry is on its own in terms of compliance. And sure, the alcohol industry is also heavily compliant. Um, but the problem is, I think at the end of the day, is just the taxes. And it really is just the government, right? Because counties have to approve it. Only 60% of counties in California have legalized cannabis. It's not legal in Santa Monica, it's not legal in Beverly Hills. So when we have all these barriers that we are putting, and every single, like you're right, like no interstate commerce, right? Every single state has to start up. Like seeing what's happening in New York and knowing that they're just years away from everything we are established in California, you're just almost designed to fail. You're really starting from the ground up every single time. So I think, like I would love for us to be like any CBG brand. I like, that's really what hemp is able to do right now. And that's why so many brands are going Delta 8 and hemp because, they're finding these loopholes and they actually want to make some money.
Yeah.
But I think that it's just so difficult when we have all these barriers in place that are just designed to fail and you just waste millions and millions and time and turnover, like hire the guy who ran retail marketing at Adidas, but he's not your guy to do your retail stores. It's just they come in, they're learning, you're wasting time, you're wasting money. It's just all learning. And it's just been nothing but a time suck when you really just want to just keep moving forward. So I think, that's like always going to be the issue with this industry. And when I said taxes, I mean, it's the taxes. You
Yeah.
can't keep a cannabis habit like you used to. I'm driving around LA and I'm just seeing empty dispensaries because it's so expensive. Like I used to in medical days, no taxes. I would just come in pretty much every single day, spend 40 on eighth and like peace out. Now that $40 eighth is like 65 with
Oh,
tax.
when
And
I
it's
first
just,
started buying weed in California, I thought I didn't know how to do math. I remember I'd
yes.
walk around the store and I'd be like, all right, this should be like, I don't know, like 220. I think that's good, because I was coming from out of state. So I was picking some up.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I get to the register. They're like, all right, $400. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it probably took 3 trips before I realized that I knew how to do math. I was just getting, raped on taxes.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, I would love, I know we always say like, don't compare it to alcohol, but like I would love to compare it to alcohol. Let's just be alcohol. They don't have an excise tax as high as ours. Like
No.
we have excise, we have sales. Like, you buy a Bud Light case, you're out the door. No creepy underlying taxes going on. So it's just really unfortunate that these are the parameters that we're dealing with. Um, because I would just love it to be easy. I also, we kind of mentioned this a little bit ago, but overvaluation, I think, kills it. It drives up license prices. Florida being like, it's going to be a $10 billion industry by 2026. Okay, so that makes licenses 70 million a pop. It doesn't work out that way. So it's just we're all just so disjointed and siloed that we need to actually figure this out because California is a dying industry. It took Colorado a little bit, but I know they're suddenly having a lot of issues. Oregon, so like all these mature markets are really excuse me, are really just suffering. And people are like we can't even open like consumption lounges. And, like everything's so expensive. You can't even open stores. I drove about 4 hours north in California a few weeks ago. There's no dispensaries in sight. So I was actually going to make a post soon about the different NorCal, SoCal markets and the kind of like leaving Central Coast in the dust, because we're not in a good place. I don't know any state that's doing well right now. Um,
No.
and that's why it is like we talk about like the MSOs, but like um a lot of it is very predatory. They take social equity licenses, they just like do a lot of like advantages to them that is a shame like when a new emerging market is happening. So it's just every single state is having its own issue. And I know at the end of the day, it's all about just like the taxes and the legality that comes with it. Because I would love it to be easy. I would love it to be like Coca-Cola. Like,
Yeah.
let's just do it. But
I mean, on
we get in
top of
our own way.
on top of it, the other thing is, and this is what I kind of laugh at, is like they say the licenses are not renewing. These people are going out of business. They're not going out of business. They've sold weed for tens of, for 30, 40, 50 years. It's been in their family. They're not all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we went legal, but we couldn't make it. So we're just going to grow tomatoes now. No, they're going back into the black
Mhm.
market. Like, so all they're
Oh
doing
yeah.
is they're fueling the black market that they're trying to fight by just taxing everyone out of business. So they're literally doing the exact opposite of what their intention is. And that like, I can't believe there's not a politician that's like, 80% of farms didn't renew their license. I can't believe they all went out of business. No, they started sending out their Telegram links again. So, you
Yeah.
know, it's interesting. Elizabeth, I didn't even realize there's so much I want to talk to you about, and I unfortunately suck at scheduling myself. I'm enthralled by your career, your journey to entrepreneurship, where you are today, the freedom that you have. I still want to talk to you about, some of the consumption habits, the experiences that you've had, your tolerance break, and all that stuff. But we're gonna have to do a part two with you at some point.
Yep.
Um,
Part
would
two.
would love 2, 3, 5, whatever you want to do. I'd love to have you back on the
The
show.
series.
Exactly. Maybe a regularly occurring guest, who knows? But uh,
Yeah.
in the meantime, we're gonna stop it here. If there's anything you want to leave us with before you go, promotions or just any final thoughts.
Yeah, it's just, I always just try and tell people to hang in there. Especially like with awards and when there's conferences and people think, do I have to be at BizCon? Like all this stuff. Like I just never want anyone to lose sight of why they are doing what they're doing. I want them to always remember that they are enough. It's really hard to have like a CBD brand, for instance, and look at like the bigger CBD brands. But at the end of the day, cannabis is a slow burn. It only seems heightened because of the internet, basically. California was the first medical program in 1996. We didn't go rec till 2018, 2017, 2018. So, I always just want to tell people that, take your time, save your money, do it right. And that's the only way you'll succeed. Like I work for very high profile brands. It's wonderful to be in the news, but look where they are. So that's always, why I want people just to understand like you're enough, and just never lose sight on why you're here.
That's awesome. Liz, I love
Yeah.
your content. Keep doing what you're doing. You don't need me to tell you
Thank
that.
you so much.
Definitely,
Yeah, this was incredible. This is incredible. Thank you.
of course. Well, I definitely want to have you back. If you have free time when you're in town, let me know. We can
Yeah.
always do something in person too. So
Yeah, yeah. Shoot me your info. I'm literally on here. I'm there Wednesday to Wednesday, and I don't do anything but see my family. So yeah, let's do it.
awesome.
They're in Boca.
If you want to try some terrible Florida weed, I'm your guy. Um,
I
it is
I've tried a few. It's always been from True Leave though. So I'm down to try some other stuff, but it's always True Leave that I've tried.
we Flowery's really good. Jungle Boys has gotten good here. And then Gold Leaf's
Oh
a new player.
yeah. I
Gold
was
Leaf,
supposed to meet with someone at Jungle Boys.
yeah,
I
Jungle
don't know.
Boys is
Thank you for reminding
great.
me.
If you need a connection there, let me know. And then Gold Leaf does organic living soil, and I'm a fan of that. So
Oh,
um,
great.
first in Florida. But yeah,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Let's link up.
for sure. Awesome. Well, social media handles, any websites, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I'm Liz Udell everywhere. Oodell. And yeah, find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm the loudest. No pun intended.
Well, thank you to Liz and thank you to everybody at home at watching. This has been another episode of Elevate Your Grind. Of course, if you missed any part of this episode, you'd like to catch it later, you can find it at youtube.com/elevate your grind or on any of your podcast platforms, Apple, iHeart, Stitcher. Listen, everybody just uses Apple and Spotify anyway, but I feel like I should mention the others. Maybe soon we'll be on TikTok. Who
Yeah.
knows? But folks, tune in next time. We'll see you later.